is a type of bird called a white-winged Chough. They're quite interesting actually. I can't claim to be a massive expert on them, but from what I've observed, they seem to live in groups of around about 5 to 7. Mostly family groups, but I gather that they can... Sorry, that's kookaburras. Noisy birds. Yes, anyway, I gather they live in groups of between about 5 and 7 from what I've observed. And it's mostly family groups, but I gather they can go out on raiding parties and steal birds from other family groups to boost their numbers. Anyway, they, like the wonga pigeons, spend a lot of time walking around, scavenging for food. They eat a lot of insects, but they'll scavenge for anything really. And they just walk around. They've got this amazing behaviour where they sort of attack each other, and they've obviously got some sort of hierarchy going on. And there's something sort of poultry-like about them. It's like having a little flock of ancient chickens walking around. Morning, welcome to Saturday. I wouldn't normally film on a Saturday, it's my half day and housework day, but I thought I'd just take the opportunity to give you a quick rundown of how I manage my wood burning range. It's made by an Irish company and it's called the Stanley Errigal. You might be able to see that down there. I'd had wood burning staves before, but not one like this, and when I lit it the first time, smoke all poured out of it. So if you find yourself in a situation like me and you inherit one of these and you don't know how to use it, let me quickly show you what I do once a week to keep it ticking over. So this is the firebox, this is where the fire goes. I open the firebox door and take my trusty poker and just give this a bit of a clean out to get some of this built up ash into the ash pan. You don't have to clean all of it out. Then we've got another tool down here, which is like a scraper tool, and I use this to clean out the ash inside the body of the range. Excuse me. So essentially the fire can either be directed to go straight up the chimney, or it goes around the range, down the side of the range, along the bottom of the range, and then up the chimney, and that's how you heat the oven, which is this cavity here. So a lot of soot and ash can build up in this portion of the range, and once a week I clear that out just to make sure the flow of air is as good as it can be, so I can get the range as hot as I can. And the way I access this is on the top of the range there are these 3 circles, and I just pick this up. This reveals the innards of the range. This is some of the ash that's accumulated. I take my scraper tool and I scrape out the inside, and I do this side then this side, but I won't show you everything. And then I also use it to scrape the walls like this. So let me finish doing that and I'll show you the next stage. For the next stage, I want to then scrape out the ash that's formed at the bottom. So this is the ash pan door. Here's the ash pan. So what I like to do is pull that out and put it underneath the oven, because if I open up the oven door, at the bottom there's this little hatch. So I pull that out, and this is the cavity that's beneath the oven, and I don't know if you can see, but the air travels along here and then up the chimney, which is there. So I scrape this out too. One quick last thing before I call it a day for Saturday and put my feet up. I'm particularly pleased with this little flower arrangement, and I thought I'd share it with you. It's dead simple, just some lavender, some violas and a bit of grass. I think it looks lovely. Just a quick word to the wise: if you're ever on a walk in an environment like this in Australia, I recommend to you that you constantly go like this with your arm, because the amount of times I've walked into cobwebs and got them all in my face is extremely unpleasant. The spiders are pretty determined though, so if you don't want cobwebs in your face, I'd advise practicing the waving your arm around technique. On that theme, you're never going to get that in your face, admittedly. But these spiders have completely taken over the top of this plant. I don't know if you can see them, but inside there are all these tiny little spiders. Baby spiders, I assume. You can only really see that because it's very misty this morning. But that is the sort of thing you wouldn't want to get in your face. You find me just checking the weather again this morning, and compared to most weeks of this summer, you'll notice relatively little rain for the whole week, which can only mean one thing. A little bit of business has brought me back to Buchan, and whilst I'm waiting I thought I'd take a stroll along the river on the opposite side of the bank than when we were here last, and I thought you might like to come with me too. We're going to start by crossing over the river on this really cool bridge. Suspension bridge, I guess. Let's stop for a second and have a look at the river. There we go. You can maybe just make out the road bridge, which is just there. And there's even, although it's quite hard to see, a ford. It's not possible to cross it at the moment, but the river's not typically like this. And downstream. Let's carry on. Up at the road bridge. It's a nice little spot. Wait, what the fuck was that? Looks like our way might be blocked. We can go a different way. Something just caught my eye. no idea what this is. And how cool is this tree? Look at the size of the leaves. As compared to my hand. They're sort of hairy. Some sort of cool fruit. And this tree is gigantic. These fruits are kind of sticky too. If you know what that was, let me know. It's a nice house. If any of you had been inspired to maybe think about moving. A very, very large house indeed. It's a bit of a blank canvas garden. That would be the river down there, so a bit of river frontage. Solar panels. Satellite NBN broadband by the looks of it. Nice rustic fence. You can possibly see how wet it is underfoot and how tall and lush this grass is. I can assure you it's pretty untypical for this late in summer. And in fact, as I'm recording this, this is the only county in Victoria that is not under fire danger period restrictions, which is the first time that's happened to me. It's very welcome. Just got another peek at the river, let's go and have a look. Nice picnic bench. Ooh. Place you can have a barbecue. The sound of the waves lapping at the bank is really pleasant, but probably all you're hearing is the of the digger / lawnmower. Anyway, can't have it all. Let's head back down to the river. Slightly different terrain now. These beautiful reed beds. I think we can get a bit closer to. There's not so much vegetation. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to sink. Oh, isn't this beautiful? It is a bit of a gloomy day, so you're not seeing it in its best light. I'm not going to lie about that. Well, obviously I can't. You've got eyes or audio description. Sort of picks up there. These reeds are easily twice my height, so a good 10 foot tall probably, for a sense of scale. And there are all sorts of birds living amongst them. And just behind it, this is the beginning of what's known as the bluff. So this sort of rocky outcrop, which is kind of like an overspill from the Buchan Caves Reserve. I'm not too sure, but this might even be part of the Caves Reserve. I'm not sure of the reserve's boundary as such. I don't know if you can see, I might see if I can zoom in. This sort of cavey scar there, as I'm saying. The whole area is littered with stuff like that. I'll zoom you back out. Let's carry on. I know these kind of walking shots and moving shots, and in fact most of my shots are in general juddery and wobbly, but that's because I do film everything on my phone, which is not even a very new phone. It's like an iPhone 6S or something, and I think iPhone are up to like 900 or something by now, so and most of the photos that I take over on my Instagram are on my phone, although I do also have a really nice camera, although it's not an SLR, it's just a compact digital camera, which I do also take some photos with. But I'm afraid that's my style, that's my vibe. this is basically my hobby, and I just don't feel like getting sort of vlogging cameras and fancy equipment. Is me. It's not my style. I like the idea that anyone can do this just with really basic equipment, and that's the appeal for me. So I'm afraid, unless I have a sudden change of heart, this is as good as it's going to get. I'm realising that I'm not really showing you the bluff. I hope you can see it. It's just really interesting geological formations. I'm no geologist, so those of you who might be or are, perhaps you can explain what's happening here, but this sort of rippling in the rock speaks to me of some sort of trauma, or I don't know, maybe the rock used to be like this and it's been like tilted like that. I don't know. But it's interesting anyway. And then that sort of close rippling kind of stops, and then you're at this sort of larger, lumpy, more straight section. I think this is limestone. I'd be surprised if it wasn't. Most of the rocks in this area are limestone, and you can see sort of yet another hole into the bowels of Mother Earth. It's got this really lovely grey colour. I don't know why some of the rocks more orange. I don't know if that's a different kind of stone or if that's mineral deposits. I'm not really a font of information on this, I'm afraid. I'm really just appreciated on a superficial level. Oh, I don't know if you can see. I'll try and zoom you in. There's a big eagle up there. It's too far away for me to tell what sort it is. I'm sorry this is so shaky, but you're zoomed in now. Looks like it's catching a thermal. I'll zoom it back out. I hoped it was maybe going to swoop right overhead, but it's just getting on its merry way, flying around, checking stuff out. Hello. Hello. Silly Beatty.